So if you all gotten the sheet to sign
I
it.
think it's coming around.
Okay, all right.
We have Stan Kilpatrick, who's facilities, and Lori LaPine, who's HR.
Okay.
Health with operations, and a lot of other things.
Okay. And did you like to introduce yourselves?
I'm Carly, I work at
Lucy and I work at District.
Okay, all right, we just need to.
Watch our
I will call the meeting to order at 7:06. Would you read, the resolution? The number.
Is it on the agenda? I
Okay,
but I can read the number.
yes.
So according to my note from the town council meeting.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I usually am much louder. I usually do the training. So, all right. According to my notes with the town council meeting, the number that was, I want to make sure I'm correct. 91,844,008. I was doing my own math, but I couldn't find it written out.
We had 92 million.
92. I thought it was 2. Say that again. 92 million.
That's it. I'm marking it.
Yeah, I just want to make, because I was, you know what I was going off of, again, was, actually for it. And that's, please tell me that I'm trying to do it on, so can you see that?
92 million, 4,575. Do I have that right?
92.4.
4,000, there's a couple zeros in it. 575. 92,004.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 0.
92,004,570. Yep.
There we go.
That's it, okay.
And it was a 4.6%.
Okay, I had the percentage correct. I did not do the math correct.
Right, and it was
I
$4
apologize.
million, 46,091.
Okay, and that,
That is my mistake, sorry. It's been a long day with small children. So.
I got someone, from this committee to second.
Oh, you're looking at me.
To say
I will say
Second of these. There we go.
okay. I don't know. Maybe the easiest way. If, do any committee members? Oh, no, there's one on,
There's one on there.
Actually,
I said-
Oh,
Doesn't represent Fitzgerald is out there?
yes,
Gina?
she's there, and
Strickman?
Frickman,
The Spellman?
no, she's, IT.
We have 2 more.
Okay.
3 of you.
Okay, all right.
We have 5.
Yes, we
Is
have
there
five,
anybody
we're all
out
set.
there who actually wants to second it? I'd rather
Who
not.
does?
Sorry, Jackie, I was double booked tonight, so I couldn't attend.
It's okay.
Jackie, excuse me,
Excuse,
could someone repeat the town council number? I didn't hear it.
Sorry, it was confusing. I'm gonna do it by number 92,004,575. Correct? Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. And that was a 4.5% increase?
4.6.
4.6?
okay, Katrina, would you do me a favor?
Yeah,
Do you want to second this?
I'll second.
Okay.
I just want my name.
Um. So, one way to do it would be to, ask the committee members if they have any questions for the board.
You can also suggest, I think Adrian has some notes, and I've given you some
Yes.
areas that we can talk you through, and then you might have more questions.
Okay,
about what
all right.
we Provided.
Do you want to?
Okay.
Okay, all right, Adrian is going to.
Thank you. So on behalf of the Board of Education, we'd like to begin by expressing our sincere appreciation to the RTM Education Committee, inviting us to present and discuss the fiscal year 2026 education budget. The Board of Ed has dedicated over 30 hours of public meetings, many more in individual review, to ensure this proposed budget is as accurate and responsible as possible within the physical and operational constraints currently facing our district. We acknowledge that there may be areas of the budget that seem confusing or contain inaccuracies. However, we urge that you keep in mind that the budget we have submitted reflects what the board believes is truly necessary to effectively operate our schools next year. Any reductions to this proposed budget, especially those based on misinterpretations or clerical inconsistencies, will not impact any of us personally, but they will have real and lasting consequences for our students, ultimately for the future of our town. To provide context, Groton's per student expenditure remains approximately 10% below the state average and 15 to 20% below that of many neighboring districts. A decade ago, our spending per student was nearly in line with the state average and only slightly below regional averages. It's true that with the opening of new school buildings, we hope to realize some savings in staffing. However, the roughly $9 million difference between our current budget and the averages mentioned far exceed any efficiency gains that could reasonably have been expected from our facilities. While new buildings improve learning environments, they do not reduce the number of students we serve. Staffing levels still must be aligned with enrollment. The budget also includes strategic investments designed to support long-term education. Notably, we've added funding for academic supports at the elementary level with the specific goal of strengthening reading, writing, and math proficiency. We anticipate that these early investments will reduce the need for remedial intervention in later grades. This is not only the right approach for our students, but a physically responsible strategy that will benefit the town long term. We respectfully ask that you, as you review our budget, do so with full understanding of the rationale. Funding that we are requesting is not optional. It is essential for maintaining the quality of education that Groton's children deserve. All right. And I would like to thank you and all of Groton's elected leaders for your consideration and partnership during our school.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Just a quick question. Would you mind sending that so it can be a part of the permanent record?
Sure.
Okay, all right. Probably to the town clerk or Don review.
All right.
Okay, thank you. All right, so moving forward, I will not be participating much in the discussion because I have to take notes. Can't talk.
Well, and I'll do the same thing because I prepared a really short synopsis.
Okay.
And if you open it up, the Groton Public Schools, Board of Education F 2026 budget, if you open it up, I'm gonna go back to the priorities because that's the driver of the decision and, certainly Adrian agrees with. But there is, a real mission to accelerate learning in Groton Public Schools and a real mission. So that's one of the biggest drivers in this budget. But if you turn the page again, you'll see the Board of Education budget in a snapshot, in a one-shot view. And then what we've done is we've taken all of the contractual and obligations of each one of those parts of the budget, and then the needs. And I'm going to explain this as we go through. So if you look at the broad brush stroke, this is what really is the essence of every school board budget. You have your salaries and wages, that's 75%. That's our teachers, our educators, that's our tutors, our custodians, our, food services. So that's all of the people. And the nurses now, we do have the addition of the nurses and the nurses' aides. So those are the people. That's what we give kids in school, the people that help support their education. And the benefits are very important as well. Our health savings, we had really used a lot of the excess health reserve in the past several years. We've kind of gotten back on track with that a little better, but we still do have OPEB bills that we are responsible for. And that's an increase. You can see the $1.3 million that we have to pay that back. And we're figuring out ways to do that in this, at the end of this year and next year's budget. There are the purchase services, and those are really also obligated because those are really for special education requirements and other things too like that that are by law. Property services with required costs for water, sewer, trash, repairs, rental fees. And like we've seen, everything is going up, just like at home. The schools, the costs are all going up. Transportation, insurances, communication and tuition are all going up. And those are also obligations. As a matter of fact, we're so rich here in the southeastern Connecticut, our kids have so much choice. They can go to Ledger, to an agriculture school. They can go to marine science. They can go to New London. They can do the Learn schools, RMMS. So elementary, middle school, and high school, they have a wide range of opportunities. And now in our own district, they even have opportunities for an intra-district magnet at the elementary. So they can have their home-based school, or they can have choice and be part of the lotteries. And our families are loving that. So, but the inter-district magnets do come to a cost. When I first got here, it was almost $3 million. And it's come down to about 1.5. So we have seen kids coming back. But they still have choice. And Grasso, but they don't pay for it. Grasso is another wonderful option. I just met a couple of them. And then our supply costs, and that seems really high to be a $911 increase. But I'm going to talk to you about supplies. Supplies is not only pencils, crayons, and different textbooks and things like that, but it's also utility and electricity has been skyrocketing. But with the help of our business manager, we've gotten contracts, so we have locked in at 10 cents. But we in the past had it down to 7 cents, so it's still escalating. And then there's equipment costs, and the equipment that you see here at $369,000 up. That's really piece of that is our computer equipment for instruction, and we usually have about $500,000 from DoD supplement, and that's afforded since I've been here for 11 years with Dr. G. That has afforded all of our technology. As a matter of fact, we went 1-to-1 before COVID. Thank goodness, we were ready to hand them computers that they took home, and in middle school and high school, and that gives them access to education every day. So that's really, truly important. But those dollars, we had a little bit left for this year, but we had to use it on the nurses. So now we're not sure about next year. We don't think the numbers were enough for this past year. Get that. So we've got to put that in because this equipment, and Adrian and I were just talking about 7 years old, right?
Yeah, so we get 7 years on average out of a Chromebook that costs $300. But I don't know how many we have in the district. It's 3,000. We get 7 years, but that's still a lot. Every year. 7 years on a Chromebook is doing pretty good at that.
We have iPads for the little children, and those are kept at school, and the computers are kept at and sometimes our middle school kids still have the same Chromebook. Very valuable. And then there's non-instructional equipment, and that's truck for Sam Kilpatrick, because we were down a truck in the plow. There was one day I had to call a late day because we didn't have enough equipment between the town side and our side to get things de-iced safely enough. So I had to do a late, well, I didn't have to cancel. But, you know, it was all hands on deck, so we definitely need that equipment. And dues and fees are just up 14,000. That's everything from the board dues with CAVE and my dues with CAPS. And so it's not an outrageous amount. It's really for, and all of our dues and fees for our military affiliation, NISA, military impacted superintendents, and the NAPSIS, which helps us with our impact aid. So those, especially in this day and age right now, where that could be at risk, those different groups are really important. And then there's a contingency, and I don't know if you'd like to speak to contingency, but that was something that we thought long and hard about, and, you know, have negotiations coming up for both the maintenance, custodial, secretary, and IT, huge organization, and then the GPA starting this summer. So we have two big unions that are getting ready for the negotiations, and we have to responsibly have money prepared to be able to, you know, be able to do that work. So that's just kind of a broad brush stroke. And on the next page, what we did was we really wanted you to see the amount of money the town council proposed. So I'm going to take you right down to the bottom where it says $4,046,091. And what they proposed is actually a deficit to what we're asking for in the amount of $2,356,985.44. So to try to take off $2.3 million in a budget like this, it's already tight. It's impossible. I'm just going to put it out there. It's impossible. But if you look at just salaries and wages and benefits, there's basically $4.4 million that we need just for our people and our benefits. And that's due to their contractual obligations, and it's also due to the $1.2 million for the nurses. In the budget, we were able to pay by to get through DOD and some non-monthly pay for our nurses. But next year, they have actually segued. They used to be in the town side of the budget, and it's been shifted over to our obligation, and we are obliged to pay for it. So we just want everybody to know that's in this budget. And health aides, 5 tutors, social worker, you had said how important this is. When we talk about accelerating learning, there's nothing more important. And then special education teachers, by law, our caseloads are already high. We have to have a certain amount of children to the teacher, and they're already overworked. And we keep monitoring those numbers, but we just keep getting more students, especially the military. You know, this is a place to come. It's the first place up base here because of the excellent service that our kids get. So getting out of the gate, we don't even have enough to cover our salaries and benefits.
The special ed teacher that we had talked about, I think ideally, the caseload or number of students a special ed teacher would have would be around 15. And I believe that we have as high as 27 students with one special ed teacher, and then lots of special ed teachers that have caseloads in the 20s. So it's not, you know, in those younger years, when the kids need more time, those are the special ed teachers that are overworked. I mean, they're all consultants. But 27, that was, I mean, we spent a lot of time talking.
And then the transportation and tuition, you know, the employee benefits, I don't know if you want to speak to this, or you're the expert when it comes to healthcare and OPEB, but this is an obligation that we have to the town, to our people, that we have to pay this bill.
OPEB is a required liability where we have to fund other post-retirement benefits. So we had a skit a year that requires us to play some catch-up.
good stewards, we have to really make sure that we not get the harm. So if we go to the transportation and tuition, these again are all contractual. The tuitions are those students who are going out and being outplaced, it could be special education, it could be just through the lottery. And then transportation, we signed a 5-year contract. And while it's not as high as it was the first 3 years, it's still up there, still a 5% increase. So it's still something that we have to pay. And contingency, it was something that the board added back, and when Adrian said how hard our board worked, the board and the staff, I've never seen anybody as committed as this group. I mean, we were sometimes 9, 10, 11 at night. 11. And multiple nights in a week, and really going through every line item, really. And we were struggling back at the ranch, trying to go through what else is there in this thing? What else can we uncover? That we can be more efficient. So it was really a lot of attention to detail. And the contingency knew at the negotiations.
Can I say something about it? So it's been stated that we should just ask for a fourth quarter transfer. If we negotiate a new contract. But, we asked for a transfer last year. It never got brought up for discussion. The only time I think it was brought up was executive session. So we need to, and by law, board members cannot intentionally or knowingly go over budget. So we can't add something to a budget without funds for it. As a Board of Education, legally, we can't do it. We really need money there, and I just don't believe, I don't believe that, at least speaking for myself, that I'm comfortable that money will be backstopped by the town. Months since I've been on the board. So I really think that
It's mainly for labor negotiation. And, okay, what does it do?
So it's the maintenance, custodial, secretary, and IT. And then it's our GPA, our teacher population.
Okay.
And then I think we did put a little bit in there in case, something broke down, but we really were focused mostly on
we're also using it to try to advise.
especially. We've tried to stay ahead of the minimum wage, but, they work very hard, very long hours for something. And many have more than one.
Yeah, just to speak competitively, we just talked business wise on the Paris. All the surrounding districts pay more than us. It's hard for us. I mean, they're lower wage jobs. I mean, they're pretty close to the most lowest wage that we have in the district. And when Stonington is paying $2 or $3 more an hour, Westerly, Waterford, Montville, everybody else is paying more. We are losing pairs, and that costs us more money. Because I mean, sometimes they're filled, those positions are substitutes, but a lot of times they're covered with a special ed teacher or a building substitute, or you can probably speak to
Principals, I think, help.
lots of people, because
Yeah.
those students that are required that are required to have a para by IEP, we have to cover that. So that is money that's being spent. We work, it's more advantageous for us just to hire para. That's partially what
Right.
it is.
And one of the cuts that was suggested by the town councilor was, well, you're not hiring these, so just cut that budget. But they don't seem to understand that we haven't been able to hire, but we had to put a person in place. So our substitute account is over budget, and this is under budget, but it kind of works out. We would certainly rather have our para educators train them specifically to meet the needs of these kids. So, and HR, I have to do a shout out for Lori Lapine and her team. They have gone to every possible fair. And we're everywhere. We were at the early childhood fair and, you know, we try to be everywhere to encourage people to, you know, sign on. And we even have an incentive, don't we, where someone sends a friend to us and,
Employee
Employee.
referral program.
yeah. And that's worked a little bit, yeah. So we've done a lot with that.
In that Caroline, I think that's more, Lori, maybe you can clarify, but I believe that it's not just the para salaries for staff. It's also some of that, that fill-in money for people that are temporary staff.
Yeah, that's
Temporary
right.
hires. So that para number, if you were to reduce it, we would all of a sudden not have money to hire that temporary staff.
Add one thing to that. If you mind.
Yes.
That I would just add on to that, you know, we have an obligation under the students' IEPs to support, whether it's a paraeducator or a substitute paraprofessional, as Adrian said, we're trying to hire individual and qualify them ourselves, so they're included in that line. Something that we are doing, and we are spending that money just in a different way to try and qualify our own paraeducators, right? We're losing them other districts in the area because
Enrichment services is really a lot of special education, and those are contracts with Learn, Econ, OTP, sometimes speech language pathologists, if we have been able to have one of our own. So there are, you know, really, these are also, most of them are people and professional learning and that kind of thing, you know, that would come to us. So that is also property services. And I already said that, that's water, sewer, trash, repair, rental fees. Sam, that you would say, but those are non-negotiables, right?
That's correct.
We get the bill and we have to pay it and we're under contract. And then the supply seems really high up at 828, 906, but out of the supplies, that amount of money is contract. So that's really your computer supplies, your electricity, and heating that we've negotiated contracts, and we've done pretty well, but those prices have gone up too. We do have these new buildings. I don't know if you've seen one on top of the building. Well, it's lit up like a Christmas tree, and we've done everything. I think you finally were able to figure out, turn down the lights a little bit. They should go off automatically, but somehow they stay on in the middle of the night. So we've really been working on that. And then we also have the parking spaces that are hooked up to automobiles. So, you know, that's something that has come free of charge to the community. We've talked about ways that we can streamline that so we can have.
Nice to speak about electricity. So, electricity, I mean, we're required, we can't really save on the amount of electricity. We have to condition the building. Last year's budget, or this year, fiscal year 2025 budget, was significantly under budget, which is why there's such a big increase in that line. I mean, I think that line item is something like alone, it's about $400,000, maybe a little bit more. The way we came to the electricity budget, 1.7. Yeah, all right. So the way we came to that number was we calculated all of the electricity we used for fiscal year 2025 and then encumbered based on that rate. And we came to a bill in that February 24th meeting before we voted on the budget. The encumbered amount was $1,611,798. So our electricity number is just 10% over our expected electricity this year. And I believe that expected number might have gone up a little bit last month. Bill, but I didn't have those numbers. I just went back to what we voted on. And it was, we use a lot of electricity. We, you know, as you probably know about, we've had some requests for air handlers, and we are, you know, burning some extra electricity because we have to run air conditioning all year long, dehumidify the building. So we have to run the boilers when it's warm out and run the air. We're really wasting a lot of energy, electricity and oil just to dehumidify the building.
And those are our two newer buildings, NEA and
Yeah,
CK.
and with the reasons for that design doesn't really matter at this point. I mean, they're realities that we have to live. The units are reaching. But when we do upgrade that eventually, there'll be some savings. But for right now, I don't, maybe Sam could speak to it, but I don't see how we can actually cut our electricity usage, the kilowatt usage. Is it feasible?
Don't see any way of doing it. We have new equipment.
And I know that John Burt is working on that to get an HVAC grant. We're ready to go for that, even our team with Jan and Michael. Grants, but, and I think he's putting them packaging together. But that would be some super grant if it would come to Groton and, you know, do everything. It would really solve the problem. Or solve part of it.
Yeah, I should say something in support of what Adrian said. Since 2022 through now, 4 fiscal years, the utility line for electricity has only gone up $17,000. Okay, in reality, your utility cost versus your delivery cost on average prior to this past fiscal year was 80% your utility cost, your delivery line. Because there's 2 different segments on your utility line. Today, effective in August, which nobody knew about last year, when the budget was created, your delivery charges went up to 160% of your utility cost. So that more than basically doubled what it was, which is $220,000 more hitting your utility line. So there's no way you can cut your utility costs right now.
And then there was the COVID. So they were trying to get back money that was spent during COVID, right? COVID charge.
On everybody's bill.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
that's
That's all.
everybody,
Well,
yeah. So, and then the student devices, which we talked about, and the replacement truck for the snow. So, so the total obligations is $6,232,304.64, which is just under what the board has proposed by $170,000. And so there's the only additional, but we're still calling them needs, their supplies and its equipment that we probably still need. But that's the only thing that we can uncover that would not be obligated.
We really need a plow truck. Well, we had, if you think about how much education costs this community, I did the math a while ago, but hourly, and we're basically paying for hours that kids are in classrooms. If you look at $90 million and divide it up by 180 days, about $500,000 in educational hours that our town is spending to educate children. And we've had multiple days where we had delays that other districts didn't have, where we had longer delays, because we don't have the snow removal equipment. So if we lose 1 hour of classroom time, if we think about it in that kind of business context, $75,000 truck isn't that expensive. If we really need, we're down 1 truck. I believe our newest truck is 4 years old or 5 years old. Yeah, and we can't buy used equipment with
Can't
purchasing rules. So we need to, in our plan is in the future to make a schedule and repurchase, vehicles every couple of years. But for right now, we have an aged fleet and we really need to replace it. But that's a place we could cut, but it really doesn't benefit the district or kids to cut the vehicle. Okay.
Sam, if I'm not mistaken, years ago, didn't the town plow the schools?
They didn't do all the schools, but they've assisted us and presently they're helping us with Catherine Kolmaski and Fitch High School.
Okay. But sometimes they do the roads in town first, which makes sense, and then they do the schools. Okay, which works out
Yeah,
okay
they
for
have to do
Kathy
the roads
Kolnowski,
before
but we
they
gotta
come.
get the kids in early, so that
Right.
tends to be what backs us up.
Any other? Or does anyone else from the board have anything to add?
One of the numbers, so we all got. And quite a few items on this community based. And I'm wondering.
So that's an estimate that was taken early in the fall. And so when we really hadn't started school, so it was a very low number of the amount that was budgeted. So it was only a small portion of the amount that is budgeted for FY 20. So I had responded to that he really needed to start looking at the FY 25 budget proposed from the board to be able to make those assumptions. You can't just cut based on a fall number because you haven't spent the money.
So it wasn't the actual estimate.
No,
It was estimated at that.
at that point in time. Next year, I'll probably get it closer to the time. We'll make sure that number is closer to the time, but it still will only be halfway through. So that estimate is required, I believe, from the town side that we put in an estimate.
That's what they
But it
want.
confuses everybody, right? So it'll never be really accurate. It's almost more important to do the actual before. But that was an anomaly because there's still a lot of ESSER money. And so that, that 24 number was, I think that was 2.97 number percentage increase because we still had a lot of third party. But we did look at that when we were designing.
And the other. Because I was looking at it. For the district, and I was like, oh. Anyway, I'm curious about some of the other. A lot of points. Was wondering.
I went through some of it, a little bit
That's-
earlier
I
today.
heard some.
Yeah.
You just answered a lot of it with all of the.
That was the
Spanish
majority.
we don't-
I tried to throw in a few of those things. So electricity, going back to what you were saying about our expect, I think in the expected line, it was supposed to be about 1.3 million. Now we know that number this year is gonna be somewhere around 1.6 million. So it changed $300,000. So I think that, Dan's assumption maybe was based on the thought that number was more accurate, than it was when we put it together. Please keep in mind that we start our budget a long time before the town has to start their budget. So we have to come up with these numbers. And it is an immense amount of work for the business office to do this once. So it'd be great if every number could be updated in February. You just don't have. Only as I'm speaking the truth.
I didn't get started again until mid-February, so.
So, but, so we did our best, I guess I would say with those. But they're really,
It's not the number.
it's not
It's really the
correct.
FY 25.
Yeah, I mean, it's not correct. So, so to go back to the electricity, if we thought it was gonna be on par this year, I mean, Dan cuts it, his idea, we could cut 288,000 out of electricity. But really, that would just be assuming that we're gonna spend 200,000 less on electricity next year than we spent this year. So that's just incorrect budget number if we were to take that. But I think a 10% increase, which I think is actually gonna be smaller than a 10% if we leave the electricity number where it is. Now that Board of Ed is a department of the town, and with extra money, we should ask in the fourth quarter transfer. Like I said, we asked for the fourth quarter transfer in June. I believe it was July, was the only discussion that the town council had on that transfer. And some board members were a little bit nervous, at least I was, because we are personally liable. We knew we were gonna go over budget. Thankfully, we didn't, but board members are personally liable by the law if we go over budget, knowing we go over budget. So we can't negotiate contracts. We would have to go back to the town council in public, get that approval before we could go back to the negotiating table with the union.
You just
So-
can't do it that way.
And maybe some point in the future, like, things will be different in this town. But right now, I don't think that the board, I mean, at least myself as a board member, I don't feel comfortable that that's possible. That we can negotiate in good conscience with the union, know that we're gonna be covered on the other side of it. Maybe that'll be different in the future. Right now, I really think we need to. And there was a lot of discussion about pairs, and that is a real number. The pair line is too small anyway. It's sized based on what pairs are making right now, but that number is just not enough. Not enough for us to stay competitive and to keep employees happy. All right. Increases, all right, facilities, maintenance, supplies. All right, I was hoping, Sam, that we had a long discussion on this. I went back and looked. Dan suggested cutting in 69,000. And where I saw the increase really was in custodial supplies. I believe we depreciated our, basically a stockpile of supplies. But do you mind speaking to that?
Yeah,
We can't.
at the end of the year, we, had some additional money, so we spent that money to build those supplies up. And then, of course, when we went into the next year, we used those supplies to cover the following years.
So that,
And that
What's
was
really
another
good-
area that our vets were really tough during that time.
to go back, when we got all of that, our investor money, it's what allowed the Board of Ed to give 0% increases, 1%. That money paid for education. It paid for tutors, but tutors weren't all of it. A lot of the money that we didn't ask for increases was paid by our investor money. And now, last year and this year, we're going through some growing pains because we still need to teach these kids. We still need to educate the students. So, sorry, so he had mentioned with facilities and maintenance supplies, Dan had mentioned, so we can use to, $69,000 decrease, and just the increase in custodial supplies. I think those kind of. Travel for field trips. So number one, I think field trips are common in the fall and spring more than the middle of winter. So wouldn't have really spent that money as of late last fall.
And I would have to say that field trips used to be part of our six program. In the old days of the old contract, our kids could go all over the place, and it was wonderful to have that. Now, every field trip costs $134 or more. And they did give us like 3 trips per year for each of the schools. But when we take our kids, we have our more than words kids, and they're, going to New London, or they're going to the middle school to, work with our middle schoolers. At least the middle school, so that's a cheap thing. But for field trips, that's something that the principals are putting in their budget so that they can do these wonderful Project Goes and tests and go down, to UConn, doing all those great things.
And that money is $134 per hour. Like not, so they cost $8,000 a day. So, and I also made a note on that. We have a lot of high needs students. There are my kids, I brought them to the seaport, the aquarium, and out on the water a lot. They're very fortunate. There are a lot of kids in our district who not have those opportunities. kids that don't go to the aquarium. The aquarium is expensive. And for us to, I mean, I don't even know if we go to the
We
aquarium.
do.
Just using
That's
that
one
as
of
a-
our trips. Yeah.
Just using it as an
We-
example, like,
And the aquarium
that
and
is,
stuff. Yeah.
we are trying to bridge the gap to the underserved communities. These trips are really important for that. So having field trips, I mean, we don't spend very much on field trips. I think realistic, and it was based on, again, that estimated 25 number, which wasn't accurate. So fortunately, if we had had this before
I
the
know. we could have done
meeting, we could have had some of these discussions before town council. So, all right, yeah, so general supplies, I went and looked back, I saw the estimated amount for 2025 was gonna be 151,000. Or estimated for 2024 was 151,000. So it looked like I don't know what the final number on that was. Is that,
The
can you come up
actual
with what the actual spend on that line item was in 2025?
25, right now, well, we're 2025.
Or in 2024, I'm sorry.
2024.
'Cause I believe that number was based on an actual spend in 2024.
Our actual spend right now is 165,000. Right now, right, for this year.
For this year. So, and last year, we froze site budgets in
50%.
late January, I believe it was. Or yeah, we cut them down to 50%. So, we couldn't spend the money last year. We needed to make up for that because things do wear out. And I don't think any teachers get more.
And they pay for them.
That from my house.
Yeah, I know.
Science supplies. Yeah, we had gone through these, in the last week, the board, line by line, all of these supplies numbers. And we can go through them again tonight, but these are all relatively small numbers. But we as a board went through all these, because I think there was some talk about cutting a math field trip, right? It was a math, and then when we asked, the high school came back, you remember what that field trip was?
It was for math count, wonderful competition program, competitive program. for kids. And they go on Saturday. Program, and it's marvelous. It's kind of like the debate club. You know, those are the opportunities you might. They just, they're fabulous.
So these smaller supplies items, they will have a real effect if you were. I mean, like science teacher needs to buy, I'm guessing kids break things in science.
And they use them.
And they use them.
Yeah.
But because those supplies numbers are actually pretty small. So these increases. Certified teachers, 280,000. This was a mistake in our FY 25 budget. It had nothing to do with the
24
FY.
actually goes back.
24.
So it was
Reduced your
almost close, but
24
actually
budget to
factored
balance.
into your-
No, it was a negative number that was inadvertently added. So it was supposed to be a positive number.
It was going from 24 to
Rotation.
25 because we reduced.
We were changing things, and I believe between finance directors, someone was tracking things by putting quotation mark or what are they? Parentheses, which make it a negative number in Excel, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
So we actually shorted ourselves last year by $280,000. And we made up for that in January by doing a budget transfer, and that cut basically came out of 40. So that had nothing to do with this budget, that had to do with last year.
No, you can't take it away. It's already been taken away.
We actually shorted ourselves already in this current fiscal year with that money, but that number had nothing to do with the FY.
An anomaly. That's what happens when you have 4 different people rotating in and out, but they came back again for us.
All right, the student intern, maybe Susan can talk about this because of in part how we get 7 years out of those Chromebooks.
In part, we have student interns, we've had several of them every year. Usually they're high school, college students who come back, very tech savvy, and they work for kind of minimum wage and they help the IT department get equipment ready for the new year. And I don't think we could make it with all that equipment, just with the IT guys. They also take. It's a great experience for our students to learn, on and support the school. And it's like a minimum wage job.
So it's not just one student intern a year,
No.
it's a whole bunch of kids for something.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Special ed supplies.
Those are usually in the IEP.
All right,
Those aren't, just wishes and wants, those are needs.
tutor position. All right, in my opinion, regardless of what Dan believes, we need tutors. And we thought we could do without them fiscal year 2025. We absolutely can. We have more, what is it, ELL tutors?
Get more and more and more students. I'm sure you've seen that, if you're in schools, seeing that growth of that population.
We're required to have them by law, correct?
Absolutely.
We have 11.
We only have 3 teachers. We have one for the elementary, all the elementary. We have one for the middle school and one for the high school, which are 900 and 1,000 kids. And we're considered a bilingual district. The high school and middle school have such large populations of 30 to 50 kids who, from newcomers who don't speak any of our English language, to those who get to a level 4 or 5 and get dismissed on the lost links test. And that it takes them about 3-4 years if they come new to the district. So it takes a long time, and then those tutors are underneath the teacher supporting the kids, and making sure that, they have the language and understand, going into a math class and not any class.
So that's 11 of them. We have, I believe, like around 30. And all right, so this is something that we had talked about as a board, but I'll just read what I wrote. Need tutors to close achievement gaps, raise our test. So we spent over 10 minutes talking about why we spent so much on tutors to the town council. Then the same counselor asked for our test scores right after that discussion. Our test scores aren't great. We need to improve those. Tutors are directly related to improving test scores. So our class sizes are very large in the elementary and middle school. You'll see that all of the classes, if you look at the elementary classes, like they're all 20, 22 kids, as many as 24 kids. They're large classrooms, especially, my wife teaches first grade and I think has 19 kids, and is pulling her hair out this year. I think that is our smallest class, where our first graders have like 20. It's too many for a teacher to be able to provide the individualized instruction. We really need to be able to support the teacher. And this goes back to like, we're trying to improve student. So that's, and the Board of Ed added money to this tutors line, which may or may not get transferred. Basically meant for remedial instruction, math and reading.
And as you know, we go after every grant humanly possible, with our Department of Defense grants and the state grants, and got a high dose tutoring grant in mathematics for middle school all the way to 9th grade. And the results were like amazing, but like all good things come to an end, and those tutors went away. But I can't tell you how many families I've met with struggled before, but all of a sudden it's done really well. A lot of them have said is that high dose tutoring that really makes such a difference. So we want that to continue. And, you know, I thought this was wonderful when the board suggested being able to put, at least we can start with the 5. And then in the next ODIA grant, we're gonna also add some grants, some tutors. So I figured between the grants and some operating, we can hopefully build this up.
And from the business side, the tutor costs, the expense of a tutor for a year is less than half. So you get a lot of value out of it. Social worker, I kind of spoke to this before.
And I keep saying our kids are not okay. I've had a few expulsions lately because of, you know, that vaping thing is really, you know, I'm working with Carolyn Wilson, it's a good thing, and, when we look at it, you know, I think kids self-medicate. I think that they've gone through COVID, and we're all still faced with challenges, you know, even in this day and age, grown-ups and kids. And so the social workers have been worth their weight in gold, and really, when I'll ask a child, who's your go-to, it's either a counselor, a social worker, it's someone in their school that they can go to at any time and get help, even school-based help. So this is really needed because Northeast Academy and CB lost a social worker in last year's budget. They don't have someone, and in a military community, you know, it's necessary in Northeast. It's necessary. So that's going to help me kind of mend that so that every school will have some support.
Right. So then the next ones were instructional improvement services. My note was, you described what we meant. So I don't know exactly on that one. So he proposed $16,000 and $8,000 reduction on instructional improvement.
Well, instructional improvement services are really the professional learning. And with our new evaluation plan for teachers, it's really based on them creating a goal for themselves and figuring out what professional learning opportunities they need. So we're required by law, again, that's also contractual, that we have to provide the professional learning, and it has to be kind of personalized too. So we have lots of ways we do that. But we have, how many days in all? We have the 8 PLI days, which are the early release days, that teachers have that opportunity to do professional learning. And then we have the 3 days at the beginning of the year. One is the company and work back at the schools. And then they have 2 other days, and then we have a November day and a day in March. And anytime you bring someone from the outside in, and sometimes our teachers do it for each other too, which is great. But you have to pay for those services. So that's something that, again, required by law. Teachers, they don't do CEU, but teachers need to continue to grow too. And that also supports accelerating learning. And there's a lot of new initiatives. Our right to read is really working out well. It's required a ton of this professional learning for teachers. We're getting ready to really do some wonderful work in that. I do have a strategic plan coming. Science is ever changing. I mean, the world is always ever changing, every single area, social studies. So, you know, it's continuous work in progress, and that professional learning and improvement.
Right. Susan and I were actually talking about this today, computer software. I mean, we were talking about one program that I'm upset that we don't have anymore, which is Lexia, which Susan just said went from $15,000 to $50,000. And Lexia, I think, it's an essential program that we've had to limit substantially. I think only certain teachers get it for certain reasons, right? But there's tons of software, and we've had this discussion in the board meeting, where I think if most vendors just triple their price on software.
Yeah, I think Ray and I were talking about it. You might want to add to that. You've seen it. We have
Since
operation
COVID.
software and education software and special ed.
But all software, in my experience, since COVID, has gone up an average of 50. You can't keep up with it.
And we've seen most of it double or triple.
Yes. When you start compounding it, that's where you end up with that 15 all of a sudden becomes. You get a good example. We're looking at putting in units. When I was with my prior district, we were looking at $90,000 to do the same conversion that you were looking at here. It's now $300,000.
But that's with the town.
That's with the town. Same, apples to apples. So, I mean, the only difference is there's a few more users, but still, it's unbelievable the price. They got you. You don't have textbooks. There's no paper. Everything is online.
We always do usage surveys. We always look at the usage. And we also give out surveys to teachers to rate some of these different softwares, but between the two, we fine tune that list every year and look for.
And just so we're clear, Munis, there's a CIP for that.
Yes.
So that's not part of it.
Right.
That's not-
It was just an example. We didn't
Hopefully,
get to tell them.
on that. We have replace instructional equipment, old Odia money. My opinion, doesn't believe that money that board. When we talk about, I'm gonna let you speak to that money directly, but when we talk about, when we get extra money for things, we supplement education with, sometimes it helps, it helps, it's offsetting something else. So that money that we get in grants, sometimes it saves us money in our budget in other places. So although I don't believe, like, if we just add a grant position, we can kind of plan on that. Talk about that as a board in the future, of the possibility of whether we might need that position or not. A lot of times, we're like that DODIA money, I mean, that was just money that the taxpayers didn't have to pay before. We still need to provide those services. So this is instructional equipment, so.
Well, and that's those, Chromebooks and iPads and meeting boards. So that those costs never had to come through the town. And, that's why we love Department of Defense and Impact Meeting, because that takes a little heavy lift off of it. And it's afforded through the federal funds that we receive every year. 4 million to 6 million goes right to the town every year. And then there's the extra supplement, the money for children with special needs that goes into our budget. So we do have a lot of revenue offset. Not the number was it? Talked about that was your list that you were coming up with, but it was about federal funds in the neighborhood of $12 million that Groton. But he was the one who had me do the list, so we did a chart. So we're fortunate that way. I don't think people really realize.
Unfilled paraprofessionals, 300,000. We kind of went over that. Questions on that?
Yeah.
And then this one, estimated surplus, $500,000. This is just unfair. And then it says in bold letters, not staffing positions. When in this thing, we had $2,000 on educational supplies and $2,300 on computer software and $2,600. 500,000, we're not just gonna find that with, that can be fixed with a piece of duct tape. I don't think that's just an unfair number or an unfair explanation of a very large number. So I don't really know. I don't really know what to say about that. That's just. I don't know if you can speak to that any better. No, he just said on top of all those cuts, he thinks that we can find another 500,000 after. That's what this says. It says, and that's how the town council got to their number based on these assumptions made by Dan, which I don't think were fair, because I believe Dan proposed the number. He said, I think they can do it. And now we're stuck with it. And I don't think it's fair. The 500,000.
Well, we wanted you to know really the labor that's gone into this, the trying to uncover every stone, and that I won't be able to open those schools. They won't be the Groton schools that you know and love if we take a hit like this. It will be, people said, what will happen? Well, you won't have 20 to 24 in a class. You could have 30 in it. And already it's hard enough on our, we can't do that. They'll leave.
We
So,
can't have 30 in a classroom.
huh,
We can't have 30 in a
and we
classroom.
can't,
Yeah.
contractually
Yeah.
and fire
Yeah.
code, I
Yeah.
can't.
And
So,
speaking outside the board from talking to people that work in the district, people do leave because the working conditions are very difficult here. And if we had to come up with that money, we've already lost. Like, I calculated last year, I didn't recalculate it for this year. It was either 10 or 12 classroom teachers that we had lost since 2019 to last year's budget. So we had right around 300 and then we were at 290. I don't believe we changed it at all. We were right 2, but then we chose not to. So I think it's still that number, that we're about 10 or 12 classroom teachers, fewer than we had, and we had class sizes were about the same.
and the only thing we
So-
had was that social worker, especially.
Things that we need to add to. Right, so that's, are there any other questions?
Just a quick one, we get million from the state as an alliance district. I know that's gonna dry up.
We have 25 million in UCS. We've never gotten really additional money from being an alliance district. There are times when the State Department finds money, like at the end of last year, they found, the State Department of Ed found 225,000 for Groton and called me up. And all of a sudden we received this check, but we never received the check till, I don't know.
About a week ago.
No, okay. No, but it was like late and I had to spend it before September. And I was thrilled because I had just said to my representatives, but they do support it. I said, there's a new mandate. Now that's another thing. There's all of these legislative mandates that are not funded. One of them is you have to make sure that a child who is not at the reading level appropriately gets tutoring. So I said, how are we gonna afford this? So that was, I think they heard me and then they, found the funds and we did provide a little bit of that, but we also did some summer programming and other things that would help support kids as well. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Jackie, I have a question.
Oh. Liz,
Can I go?
go ahead.
Okay, so, first of all, the number we're talking is the 92,004, right? The first number on the floor, we're discussing? The
Yes.
council number? Yeah. So, this question for, Susan Austin, Superintendent, what was the original number you proposed this year before the Board of Ed got to it? Do you have the original number?
93,677,415.40.
All right,
I remember that number.
Jackie, I'd like to, push a new number.
Okay, hold on, just 1 minute. Okay, could you just repeat your number? I don't wanna look at it. And hold on, we'll get to you. 94.
This is what it says.
Yeah, that's the numbers that is the Board of Education number. So that's the 94 million.
Is that what?
Yeah, he was asking for your number.
I'd like to move
Okay,
to,
my original number was 93,677,420.
677. 420.
420,
Were you talking about?
44.
Okay, 93,677. What are your last three?
93,677, 420, 44. That's.
Oh, wow, okay, all right, so, did you hear that number?
I'd like to move that number.
Okay. You want to propose another number?
Yes, I'd like to propose
Okay.
Susan number, yeah.
Oh, okay, you want to move the 93,
6, 7, yeah,
677, 420,
yes.
which, okay, all right, hold on.
Oh, it's an increase that will require a number of votes in the RTM, but I still like to require, I'd like to move that, yeah.
Okay, all right, so. Okay, which is, 44 cents. Okay. Do you want to give your rationale for that, or, I mean, I
Sure. I mean, I thought that her original number, what she did her work on, I thought it was she did her due diligence, and I think it's a compromise between the two numbers, and because I think the 92 is too harsh of a cut from the council, and I don't agree with a lot of the logic that was pushed regarding the paras and regarding the tutors. I think it's important that we have them. As a teacher myself, I see the value of having all staff and helping those kids, especially the kids who are really in need of that support. I know we're past COVID, but we're still dealing with the after effect. So yeah, that's pretty much where my logic is.
all right, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Oh, Katrina,
Was Rep. Frickman's number seconded?
yes. Yes.
Okay,
It
thank
was
you.
seconded by Christine,
Okay.
right? Okay, any other? Yeah. Okay, if you could,
Yes, I actually just
oh, yes,
wanted to let you know that I think the wrong microphone may be selected in the Zoom meeting.
oh. Okay, how do I,
On the bottom left, there's an up arrow next to the mic icon. It's the top
okay,
set of options. There's an anchor selected. It'll be the other anchor device.
There you go.
this one,
Yeah.
okay. There are words, select, oh, here. That's select the microphone,
The top, right underneath that. This microphone.
That's the second one.
Go
It's the
up,
second
go
one.
up.
Go up.
Go up.
So it's right above the one.
Yeah.
No, not the top of the list,
Oh.
sorry.
thank you.
You're welcome. I'll leave it
I'm squinting with my
Can you hear us
glasses on.
better? Right, is that better?
I think it may be, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Keep that.
Was that
Keep
over
that.
the other there?
Okay, any more, Liz, do you want to put your hand down so I don't keep calling on you? Thank you.
Yes, sorry.
Any discussion on the second number? Okay,
I just want to clarify that the superintendent's number is not the board's number. And although the board did increase, I would say roughly $400,000 in positions, not even that much, right? Maybe 300 and something thousand. There was the clarification in the electricity number, which I believe added $300,000. So, you know, so just so you know that superintendent's number. Ray, can you speak to how? There were a lot of like fixed costs and utilities that got moved. In addition to just what the board added or deleted in that process.
okay.
The 1,000 was added for utilities alone.
200,000 for utilities.
Wow.
You have your tracker sheet.
So yeah, fixed workers comp, 240.
So just those lines alone are $695,000 added back into the budget to make sure we were covered.
Could you hear that, Tom?
And that wasn't in her number.
That's not in the original number that we did, that was just.
There was a need for an additional nurse too. Did we talk about that position?
Yeah, but even if we considered that part of the positions that the board added, we're talking about like hard costs that were result of the budget being developed in November and December versus our actual budget coming out in the end of February. So some hard numbers that we had made assumptions on, we zeroed in on later, that are not going to be numbers that we can move. So, you know, utilities, electricity, and, what was the, what you just, trying to.
Health benefits.
Health benefits.
Health benefits, workers' comp.
200.
Workers' comp, workers' comp.
Here,
really
here
big
they
number.
are.
Those were the four big ones, 600,000 there.
Yeah.
And we would put in the contingency because of negotiation, we put in 247,000. Can you give them a page reference so they can see it?
This is the tracker.
It should be attached to the minutes from the, so that tracker, just if, I don't have it with me, Susan has it, but that tracker should be attached to our Board of Ed minutes of the night we voted, which I believe was February 24th, was it? Or 25th? So that tracker has what those changes are that the board made.
Okay, I can see the addition of 200 for health benefits, 240 for workman's comp, 55 for fuel adjustment, 200 for electricity. And then, of course, there were positions that were also in there added. There were also some efficiencies that we took. There were things that we took down in the tracker as well and eliminated. So it wasn't like we were just adding on. We were adding and subtracting.
This is just to say that the superintendent's budget was very early, and these are some hard things, hard items that we kind of zoned in on,
Okay.
aside from the board changes.
All right,
You know,
so, bottom line. The budget that the superintendent submitted to the town manager,
Mhm.
in between the time that she submitted it, and the board went over what they were gonna do, the numbers changed.
Mhm, absolutely.
You're not-
Correct.
Up and
By,
down.
mostly by these fixed costs, though,
Okay,
not by board ads. There were some.
Right,
ads,
okay.
Which I feel are very important, but mostly there were these fixed costs.
okay. Sure.
How early we have to start the budget process, what happens is for contract renewals such as healthcare, workers' compensation, those renewals don't come in time. So we have to estimate a
Yes.
number based on last year's activity. The renewal comes in, and unfortunately, those renewals come much later. And then that gets presented to the board, which is where you see the additions. Our workers' comp premium increased quite a bit, our healthcare costs were increasing. So unfortunately, we have to start the budget with a number that's not based on an actual renewal. And renewal comes, so that's really the reason for the change, like you're saying, some of your fixed costs increasing, but because of the timing, we get that information later in the process.
All right.
Are we still, are we still
Sure.
discussing? I'd like to move the Board of Ed's recommended budget, 94,361,560.44.
36.
94, am I saying it right? 94,361,560.44.
Yep, you got it.
Yep.
And my reasoning is it sounds like a lot of thought was put into efficiency, how to help our school improve through honestly not hiring more teachers, but hiring essential positions and tutors and paras to support.
Wait, I'm sorry.
I can't
We
speak.
need
Oh,
a
sorry.
second.
Oh, somebody second.
Okay, thanks.
I just like discussion.
Okay.
So should I speak to why I moved it?
Well, you were
Keep going?
doing that, yeah.
So, I'm also looking at the information for how we compare to other districts in our area. And I'm aware of how we compare with test scores, but as far as our net expenditures per pupil, it's not great compared to what the other schools and districts in our area are doing. Even within our DIRG, do people understand what what DIRG is, the different district reference group? And I think that it's well thought out. I think that the things that you're proposing will be helpful and actually cost less than some of the alternatives to make the improvements you're striving to make. I also think that we do need to do things to improve, not just maintain and keep doors open and keep electricity going, but we need to try to help our students do better and be more successful, not just take tests, but in other areas. So I think that it seems like a well thought out way to try to do it without going crazy with expenditures. So it's just my thought.
Okay. So at this point, we have 3 numbers on the floor. We have the first number that was thrown out there was the town council number, 92 or
004.
yeah,
Yeah.
92 million for $4,575. So we can, I think we work backwards.
Start with the most.
Yes. Any more discussion or?
How do you think the last number will affect efficiency in the future? Because people are going to ask, where do we go from here as we raise this number? Because that was the question we got last year. It's like, okay, you've set this bar, you can't go down. You can only go up.
And
How
I
do we
wish
go?
I had a crystal ball knowing what's happening all over our country.
Yeah.
And not, it's just really volatile right now, but I think the closer we can get to what the real numbers and actual numbers are that we need to afford, the better we're gonna be setting the foundation. What's happened is we really haven't gotten close and those numbers have been escalating. So part of it isn't the fault of anybody, just trying to predict what that cost is gonna be. So I would say that definitely the things that have been added, I think are truly necessary to help our students. I think that trying to get the cost regulated for those utilities and those things that have escalated to get them more in line with what they truly cost is necessary. Because I think that if we don't, then we're just stalling for a year where we're going to have to add on doubly the next year. So if the closer we get to what is actually needed, I think the better off we're going to be.
I think like that's like the message any of us have to go with, like, what are our goals? What are we shooting for? And where do we draw lines? I know it has to be tough. I mean, I just spent $30-some thousand on a curriculum this year too. So, and it's like, oh, I almost fell off my chair. So, and I have a population of 100, so, but I think that's questions you're going to get at the RTM, no matter what number we do today. The question we keep getting is, where do we draw the line? So it's having that answer as fast as we can do.
And that's,
Yeah.
And still comparatively to other districts, we do a great job. I mean, if you look at our test scores for the amount of money that we spend, if you look at it kind of on that business side of things, we do a great job, like, given that we have less money to work with than a lot of other districts. But that being said, we need to do a much better job. I mean, test scores of reading proficiency, they're in the 50s and 60%, at those early levels. And if we don't invest in those kids, I mean, I've said this lots of times in board meetings because I'm a strong advocate for teaching kids to read really well early on. If they're behind in reading at the end of 3rd grade, there's like a 90% chance that they will be behind for the rest of their educational career. The numbers are astounding. So we really need to support those kids. So I think that we should also see this as a small investment. I mean, as a personal board member, I would rather see slightly smaller classroom sizes, but that's not on the table. Classroom sizes just for like K and 1 and stuff. But we really need to invest in that. And if we have to make cuts, we unfortunately have to, like, if we're to cut teachers, it's the least expensive teachers that we're losing, which means we lose a lot of teachers. Like, I have no idea what we would do, but it would be traumatic to the
Devastating.
district.
Devastating.
Devastating.
And we didn't go over the first 2 pages of priorities, but I am so proud of this district. We've doubled our numbers of AP, IB, ECE for kids, and they're all taking the test, and while they're not all passing it, at least we're striving, and in the, career pathways are exploding, and the things that are happening in Groton, I think, are fabulous for our kids. And I don't want to lose anything. I don't want to lose anything for the kids. I don't want to lose a program. I don't want to raise the class sizes. So those are the kinds of things you'd be talking about if you chose a number that is way less than what we've asked for.
Okay.
And then one other thing I'll throw in there, we're doing a lot of construction for residential housing. And I believe that we have just in 2 developments, 700 units coming online in the next 2 years. The old William Seeley School and the one at the end of Tollgate. I think it's 400 and 300.
Yeah.
Between those 2. So some of those people are going to have children, and maybe lots of them. I mean, I don't know if anything's, but
We don't have extra classrooms.
we need to educate
Well,
them
the
as well,
schools
and
will
we need
full
to think,
right away.
yeah, we need to think down the line that we don't expect a decrease in students.
Okay.
And then there's those submarines.
Yeah.
One of my reasonings too is we're still catching up. COVID.
We
really
are. We're not, okay. We're not done
I
yet.
see it in my job,
Yeah.
for sure.
I
We
mean,
need
I know it's
intervention.
coming at you from the street school point
You
of
do
view.
know.
Oh.
You do know, in a big way. Yeah.
And it's tough because, and then I'll speak, it's that justification once again about those Alice families. Because I know how many of the families I work with get care for kids and things like that. So having that justification of this amount of money going out for the budget is really tough because look, I have 2 adult children who can't afford to live in this area. So they're living with me, until they can afford it. And I have families that are pulling out of the center because they just can't afford even their care for kids, subtracted tuition. So how do you plan to justify it? Because you're going to get the questions at the RTM meeting. How do you justify it when we have families who are suffering with that kind of struggles with housing and things like that?
Right. It is a tough question.
Yeah.
We do a lot in our
We-
schools, we feed them, almost all of our schools are
Yeah.
EP eligible. So we feed them, we've got the physical health, mental health.
Mhm.
We're like our own little community to support these families, let me tell you. And even having food closets and prom closets and,
Mhm.
dresses, I mean, we just do everything possibly to help support our families.
And if we look at those same families also have students, and if we want to ever try to make a difference in ending generational poverty, we need to educate those kids, because those are the high needs kids from the families that are, underserved or financially challenged. Those are the high needs kids that really need more money and more services. And if we cut services, it's going to continue this generational thing that's been going on forever and will continue to go on forever, and we won't improve it. So we really need to kind of think of that with education. And I kind of said it in there, but or maybe I said it or not, but I've done some research on how much education in Groton has gone up. It's 18%. If we take the nurses out of it, because that was just kind of a transfer from one spot in the budget to a different one. But if we just look at how much we've increased education since 2017 to now, we've increased educational funding 18% in 10 years, 1.8
Total
per year.
Divide by the number of years.
And if you look at town operations in that same amount of time, if you kind of take the nurses out of that, because that was kind of made their budget a little lighter, 46%. They've increased 46% in the town. So in my own personal opinion, if we need to look for money, I don't know that it should be education to reduce taxes. I think actually, if you look at the numbers, I mean, education is obviously much bigger than the town operations. But over the last 10 years, the actual number is, I think, about 15 million, and it's almost identical between town operations and the Board of Ed that's had the opportunity or the increase that we've had in that time.
Even, can I just add this part, free and reduced lunch definitely affects, that's one of the high needs population. When I first got here in 2014, our numbers were like 45%. Then they went up to 54%. And now I understand they're almost 63%. The state had it at 67, and that seems like a really outrageous number. But that, that's tremendous. So that really goes back to your Alice question.
Yeah.
It's harder to make a living these days, and,
And my point is like that we know these questions are coming. I said we could pass any one of these numbers and these same questions are going to be asked.
Yeah.
So being prepared for like whatever we think, I mean, because like I said, I know how where I work benefits, we get free lunches from Groton Public Schools all summer for our kids, and if we don't get that this year, that's huge, and I don't know how that impacts me. This is one little piece of your budget, but no matter what we do, we have so many.
no, that's actually Ernie Poshmeter.
Yeah.
That's a whole.
It's a whole other thing,
Yeah.
no, but I'm just saying, even like those little pieces.
Yes.
That people ask about, like, how do we keep them all, from struggling? But any one of these numbers is going to be someplace,
Yeah.
somebody's going to question it,
And
having
and it does,
an answer.
the final take on it is when the RTM votes on it, we could vote to give you $100 million.
Mhm.
And the RTM could say, we'll give them 25. But we have to start somewhere. So is there any more discussion?
I have a question, Jackie.
Yes.
Susan, could you address my number, I put the second number on the floor. Which is pretty much a $685 difference between the original number. Could you explain what that would look like?
So that was, I think, I don't know if you heard us say, but there were about $600,000 worth of areas that were utility costs that we re-looked at, re-examined to get it more, that would have to be increased to make it the number that we'd actually need. So it's missing that amount of money for utilities and insurances and OPEB. I think I just went over that. I had my little.
Yeah, so wait, Tom, are you asking?
I want to know
what the change in the district would be if we were.
What would the impact be on our
From the
kids?
board number, if we were cut 685,000?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
So I would say that would be obligation costs that when we reevaluated it, and I had highlighted it. Hold on.
I could read them off here if you like.
No, he's not asking for all the stuff that we added from your number.
No, just
He's just
How would
saying.
it
How would
He's
it
just saying,
impact?
what is so it's not gonna be on this, it's gonna be like, if we lost $685,000 to what our budget is.
What wouldn't you be able
What do
to
you
do?
foresee?
Well, I said that is really probably the most essential thing is those covering those costs for the insurances and the utilities, because that is, I think.
We'll have to cut that anyway. We'll have to pay those anyway. So what
Right.
other things do you think you might
Yeah.
have to cut?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Like,
asking.
are sports gonna get impacted
Well,
significantly? or-
it would have to be staffing and programs.
Okay.
And, last year when that was really a worry for all of us, we put it out there. We didn't threaten that, you're gonna lose a sport. But I said, there's nowhere else to go but now programs and staff. And that means more in a classroom and things that kids will miss out on, that they are, some of the things that are the extracurriculars are the things that kids come to school for. And whether it's the music program, whether it's the fencing program, whether it's football or swim or, any of those things, debate club, more than words. So kids come to school for things that are, you know, the enrichment during the day and their courses, but also for those extracurriculars. And, you know, we have an amazing arts and music program, amazing. Greece is on this weekend, so everybody has to come and see it. And Wizard of Oz at the middle school. But those are the things that I think really bring out joy, and we need a little more joy in this world.
I have one more
Okay.
question.
Okay,
So, and I know I've asked this before a number of years, and I know negotiations are coming up with a number of different groups. And I know we have no control over this, but are you guys discussing in negotiations for contracts to move employees onto the state plan, which I find is cheaper for many districts around the state, for not only the employees, but also for the district?
We actually have tried to figure out what that cost differential would be. You really have to have a health savings reserve, so we really weren't able to make any moves. And I've got Lori LaPine here, who might be able to speak to that a little bit more, because I know that we had investigated, we had talked to the board about it.
Well, we spent quite a bit of time on it. At this point in time, it doesn't realize any significant savings.
Yeah, I think that we discussed it and it would almost be a wash, although I personally feel like the teachers might appreciate that plan more. It might not be a savings for the board or a significant savings. It does have some downside. So I think that I don't believe the board is going to bring that up as part of this budget, although my own personal view is we should discuss it as a board. It just, we didn't want to muddy the waters in this board.
Okay.
So that's something I believe that we're going to be
It'll
looking
be a
at.
future topic, yep.
But right now, I don't think it would be a significant savings if we did switch to the state plan.
Okay, thanks, guys.
And it would make things complicated for the town, which I don't think they would be excited about either.
Yeah, it would be an expense for the town.
all right. Any other questions or discussion? Oh, I always forget. Katrina, is that you?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
What is the board recommendation for classroom size? And then also, what is the union recommendation for classroom size?
So, Katrina, it's very similar to when you were here. It's really between 20 and 24 students. We tend to do 20 to 22 in the early primary grades. And then, you know, and sometimes it's a little less, sometimes it's a little more. But I think it's in the contract, and then it's, you know, 23 to 24 in the upper elementary, middle, and high school. And again, sometimes those classes are a little smaller, sometimes they're a little larger. But in the contract, I remember the days of Pleasant Valley when we had 27 in a fourth grade, and I had to hire an extra pair for each classroom because of the contract. And I think
Lori knows the number.
25.
Max is 25 in the contract. If you didn't know that.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion before we vote? Somebody see further than me. Oh, good. Okay. So are we ready to vote? Okay, we'll go from the last number back. 94,361,567.44, which was the original. It was your budget.
The 94 million, that was the Board of Ed budget.
Board of Ed, okay, that's, okay. Okay. All those in favor?
Yes.
3, 4. Katrina?
No.
No, okay. So.
Yes.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 to 1. Any abstentions? Okay,
There we go.
Thank you.
you're done. You're done. Thank you. Thank you.
Are we doing CIPs? Are we, you're doing the CIPs?
And thank you for a heads up on the kinds of questions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 'cause we know where we're going.
Yeah.
Whether I agree or not agree, I mean, it's just like, you have to justification, because we're already talking about passing one budget in one place, so all the discussion is gonna be on
Right.
this.
The meeting is over. Respond to that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna do CIPs. So, are we? Yeah. Stay in the big, stay in the big book.
Yeah. So just to kind, I think it's easier. It's yours. Yeah.
You know, I brought one other thing, because I wasn't sure how the night was going, but I don't think you're gonna want it.
We're gonna be like, you're like, yeah. Of course, we have a child.
So I appreciate that.
Good night, ladies, and thank you.
It calls all of us.
Yeah.
She will have it. She will have a win.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, we are really trying to foundational changes.
Jackie?
Yes,
We're also looking at the scoreboard tonight, right?
yes, the CIPs.
All right, cool, perfect.
That's why the cost of like I met.
When, here we do go. Yeah, come on up, have a seat. Are they in your little book or are they just in the big book?
What are you talking about?
CIPs. Oh. Oh, wait a minute, I have that.
Yeah.
I do.
That was in your big,
Do.
I copied it from the big.
Okay, yep, I do. I hate carrying that book around. Okay. Does,
You know, so it's just like, okay, let's go. And just, yeah.
does everyone have a copy of the CIPs?
Been a pleasure, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Safe travels home.
Okay. Do you want to lead us off?
Yeah, I guess I could start with the first item, which is on page 35, which is the Pitch High School Manufacturing Center.
I think we should orient them though. Can I just orient them to the whole packet?
Yep.
When you look at the cover page, it has all of the things that have really been asked for in the past, so that high school athletics, but we know the town's on that, trying to work out that. It has the air quality for Northeast and Catherine Kolnowski, which is B and D. And I know that, and HVAC for both Charles Barnum and Fitch, but I know John Bird is putting that all together and trying to work on a grant. So those really got dismissed for now because we're hoping to get a grant from the state on that. Then Fitch Culinary Arts, we didn't put in this year. I guess it got zeroed out, but 600,000 to, we've already done a whole workup on an architectural plan, one of the most sought after career pathways, and our kids often have jobs in the high school from that area. And so that one has gone away, but it's still something that we're looking to do to upgrade. And then we have the water heater. That was another that was on your list. I think you're going to be talking about that. And then the district financial software upgrades, which is the Munis, the 330. And then the PA system, which really is It goes back to 1976 was when I graduated, very long time ago. And it's being held by duct tape, basically. It doesn't always work. And then school video cameras. So that was the whole entirety, but these are the things that got moved along that Sam's gonna talk. Not all of the things got moved along for one reason or another.
Okay. All right.
And so the first item is on page 35, and that is the state high school manufacturing centers. So we've been working with Electric Boat to develop what is essentially a machine shop, to be teaching machinists in that space. And so we are looking for $100,000 to develop the architectural plans for that space.
And EB is actually coming in on May 2nd to do a walkthrough. And I'm going to be inviting board members and, I've invited John Burt because they have been a wonderful partner doing the boat program and other
Right.
things. And so it really is, he's really calling it, the people at EB are calling it like the manufacturing hub center of Southeastern Connecticut, during the day in the summer and really to help with the pipeline and our kids. So it's a very exciting project and they'll work with us with grants. They've done this in Coventry, Rhode Island, and, so, but this is just to get the plans and clean out the auto shop, which used to be an auto shop at the high school.
Right, yes. Yeah, I remember it. What's that? All
Excuse
right.
me.
Yes,
Jackie, I need to leave.
okay,
All right, so it's 8:52.
okay.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye,
Good
Katrina.
night.
Okay, you ready? Question?
Any question?
I guess I have a question. I think this already exists at Grasso, which is on the same campus.
Yeah.
He does have night school there, doesn't
They do, but they have more of the welding and other pipeline efforts. They do not have this manufacturing center that they've envisioned at
he?
EB.
So what would it be focusing on? Who would it serve? That's what.
So it would serve our kids, a lot of times they'll start with working aspect and then they would go into machine shop. And so it would help this whole area that it could be, a hub for training people who might want to work at EB or work in this line of work. The manufacturing is huge, not only at EB, but many other companies around are looking, as I said, building these Columbia class submarines is a pretty big deal.
The closest program to this would be in Coventry, Rhode Island, and supports there. And the machinist is especially, I might say so, I have high interest in that because I was raised by the machinists that were in the outside machine shop at Electric Boat. His brother, my Uncle Bill, ran the inside machine shop. So these jobs are entry-level jobs for these guys, but for high school students without a college degree. And they're actually well-paying jobs at Electric Boat. So these are really critical for kids that do not plan to go to school. To college, I'm sorry.
The high school students would be taking part
Yes.
in this
High school-
program
high
while
school
they're in
kids,
school
yes.
during the
Yes,
school
yeah, it'd
day.
be part
We
of high
actually
school.
already have the curriculum through CTE, which is the career pathways. So they're already doing some of this work, but this would provide this environment and these machines that would be incredible because they would be like what they would use if they go for a job. They could get internships at EB and, and get hard hats and, I've been to the Grasso Tech signing day and we had 2 Fit Falcons that got a job in a hard hat before they graduated. So I think there'd be more and more of that.
Okay. I should have asked someone to move the figure. It's 100,000.
35.
I will figure. Okay. Thanks, Christine. I'll second.
I
Okay.
just offer a clarification on this.
Sure.
So when it was presented to council, at least my take on it, because I actually wasn't really as up on it as I even am now, was that we were applying for a grant for this 100,000 also, but I don't believe that this 100,000 is just straight
For
at
this,
the
yeah.
town. There's no
Okay.
grant to back this up that we may or may not get, like,
That was gonna be my question. So we don't have a grant secured?
No.
no,
Not
so
for
this
this
is
the request.
just the cleanup and plan, the cleanup of the shop, or, I mean,
It has not been applied for.
yeah, so there was some confusion and it was just incorrect, I believe.
So is
by
that
town
what you're
council.
saying?
So we want to be fair and honest with this, and
So basically, it says on here, like architectural plans will be needed to move this project to construction stage at this time is. That's for the next.
For the
phase.
construction.
So.
And the.
Okay.
so does this, so exactly. I'm sorry, I should be answering, but what are we paying for with 100,000? Is it just the cleanup of the shop, or we're
And the
also paying?
architectural plans. Those
We're
cost a
also
lot of
paying
money.
for architectural plans?
Yep.
And then we can go for a grant. We need the plans
Yeah.
to go for the grant,
Right.
right? All right.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, from the folks online? Okay, I will take a vote. All those in favor of, the CIP for $100,000 to clean up at the shop and, develop architectural plans, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Oh, okay, yep, I heard you, yeah. 1, 2, and 1.
Oh, do we have quorum?
That's, you know,
That's a good
that just,
question, Robert.
yeah.
Because
That's,
not-
4 out of how many?
yeah,
Doug's not here.
yeah,
6?
So we have 3 people not. here.
yeah, we have 3 people. So, and truthfully, I cannot take
Okay.
a vote. I can't, but, I don't think it would hurt to just go through these quickly so that when it's presented to the RTM, at least we'll have a clue.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mhm.
All right,
That's-
okay, thanks. All right, yeah, I'm just gonna write myself a note.
I don't know. We have 6 altogether on the committee.
Right?
What?
How many do we have altogether on the?
It's different from last year.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
If you have
Um,
6 and you have 4 out of the 6, you should be okay.
It's
You're missing Perilla and Fitzgerald. Anybody else?
done.
And that, yeah, so,
Yeah, they count.
so we're missing 3.
Then you
So
have
we
7.
have 4, we're missing
Yeah.
3. Is that quorum? Is it over
So
50%?
4 out of 7.
Do we have 4? 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think we keep forgetting to
Yeah, we
count
got a
you.
quorum, right?
Yeah, we have 4. Yeah, I keep forgetting, so, okay, we're good, we're good. I think we're good.
It's been a really long year.
Yeah,
Okay, so just give us all.
so, and, bottom line, what's the worst that can happen? At least we'll have the information,
That's all.
and that's,
And see how
So-
people are feeling about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep, so, we will operate that we do have a quorum, and, yeah, please. To the next one.
Did we, what, did we have the numbers for that? So it was 1.
Oh, it's, 3, yeah,
Gotcha.
3 and 1.
Keep my notes.
The next one is on page 36. It's the Fitch High School water. heater.
How many I have 36?
We only have every other page.
I don't have, oh, no.
Oh,
Yeah.
So fill us in, sorry.
It's not on that one.
No.
no,
Other things I've got. Or only.
I had
God.
poor Joyce doing too many things today.
I had my other budget book. It probably is-
Yeah, I have my big one.
5 pages on.
I know.
Is it in this or is it's in the other budget book, right?
Do you all have,
Are CIPs in here?
Our CIPs in this book, in our budget book?
I don't think CIPs in
Well, you
here.
have them all, right? So why don't you read off what you have? You have them all. You have page 36. Why don't you just tell us what it is?
And I'll just look over your shoulder.
13?
Different terms.
Think
Yeah.
on them?
We can list them all the terms.
Okay. Very good. Last year, you have two water heaters at high school for redundancy in case one has a problem. And they are not your home style water heaters, they're very large. And last year, one, of course, slightly after warranty has run out, developed leaks and not repairable. So we replaced that one last year out of our operation. However, the second water heater has now developed those leaks. It is not repairable. And the replacement cost of that, to put it in place, is $85,000.
You can't use it, basically. So we're down to one.
We're
And if
down to
anything
one right
happens
now.
to the one, we're in trouble.
We closed school.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say, any more discussion or questions? This is kind of cut and dried.
We need it.
Yeah, yeah, so,
Do we remove a number?
yes.
I move $85,000.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor of the 85? Oh, any questions? No? Okay, all those in favor of 85,000 for the Fitch water heater signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, good. Excellent. Okay. Okay.
And so the next item is on my page 39. Have it.
That one we have.
And that is for the district financial software upgrade, which will essentially make us compatible with the town. So, you know, Adrian or Susan want to speak about this?
Well,
With
I
more
think
detail?
that it really is, we're using a software that's a little old and it's very cumbersome and there's room for human error. And this new Munis program, which would be aligned with the town, would make our work together so much easier. It would kind of communicate with each other instead of having us trying, their staff double checking with our staff, double checking back and forth. So I think it would really unify us much better and much more efficient, even at budget time. The way your budget book is done, it's with Munis. The way our budget book is done, it's with spreadsheets. And so we have to get to a better place.
Yeah.
So that is an ask of $330,000.
Okay. Can I have someone move the number of $330,000?
I'll move the number.
Okay. Okay. Did you second?
Yes.
I have to say, this is something that was being discussed when I was on the town council.
10 years ago when I was,
Yeah,
we've
it's
been talking
been,
about it.
yeah, forever.
Mm.
So, yes, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
good, okay. You're on.
Great. And on to page 40, which is the Fitch High School PA system. Superintendent. Written to, this is at least 40 years old, but I think it's actually,
50,
From-
76,
I
I
think
know,
it was-
almost 50.
well, yeah, you're not 50 yet. So, but I think it was actually there when I was at Fitch High School. So,
Probably.
and I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was. And so, we're looking for $63,000 to replace the PA system, which is, may
It's a
not be
security
held
issue.
with duct tape, but it's patched together. And we actually had a situation at the high school last week or the week before, in which there was a situation in the building that needed to keep the kids in the classroom. They call it classroom
And you
secure.
couldn't do it.
Parts of the building didn't get the message while the others did.
And it was a medical emergency.
So
God. Okay,
Yeah.
it's ready to be replaced.
okay. So,
So I moved 63,000.
okay.
We'll get a roll.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Moving right along.
I'm on to page 41, which is for school video cameras. This is a request for $100,000 to fill in some gaps at the schools, various schools, where there are some. And we have just put in a program that will allow the police department and or the fire department, with our permission, to actually view an event at the high school should it be needed. This, Munis is on my head. but
Mutually.
It's mutual.
I think Groton
Okay.
already has
Right.
it.
So, and so it will actually go to their computers, laptops in the police cars or whatever. They'll be able to hone in exactly where it is within the building. And if the event moves throughout the building,
They can
the
follow.
cameras will actually pick it up as it goes along, so that the police or the first responders will know
Okay.
what's going on inside.
Yeah, the emergency they can go right to.
This,
Okay.
this $100,000 will assist in getting the cameras. There are a lot of
Extra
cameras now, but this will fill in the gaps and give us full coverage.
Okay.
So there are currently blind spots.
There are some blind spots, yeah, that
So we'll move 100,000.
Yeah,
I'll second.
I'd put you down.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Okay, all those in favor of 100,000 for video cameras, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, is that it?
like that's it.
That's
the
it?
ones that will move forward.
Thank you very
Great
much.
job.
1 second. I thought I saw on the agenda that we're also talking about the approving the donation for the scoreboard.
No. That is,
In May.
that's in May. That's,
Oh, I misread
that
that.
is going to be the same night as the May RTM meeting.
Okay.
Me too, because they sent it right before this meeting.
I know,
I
yeah,
kept
well,
going to that one.
That's
and-
where I got confused. Okay.
yeah, yeah, so,
Thank you.
yep, not a problem. And I figured that one would be, again, cut and dried, so we could probably dispense with it in about 5 minutes. That's why it's right before. Okay.
So the meeting is adjourned?
Oh, yes, meeting adjourned at
Thanks, guys.
9:15. All right, thank you.
Thank you all. And Jackie, I'll make sure you get these digitally so you can.
Oh,
add them.
okay, all right,
Make sure
thank
I get
you. Okay, now I have to figure out how to
Thank
shut
you
up.
all. We really appreciate it.
Good.
Thank you.
Just to close
Have a
out.
good night.
Yep, you too.
The ending bell.
Did she stop recording?
Yeah. All right, so,
I still like.
So do you think you can get all the RTM members just to watch this meeting?
no,
You know, see, and that's it, whether I agree or not, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, we're spending a lot of money.
is that how we
But it's
exit?
taking the emotion out. It's just so hard for people, you know?
Yeah,
And when you have lots of people in the room and lots of thoughts and lots of things, it gets,
And a lot of preconceived ideas of education.
yeah, it's tough. I mean, like I said, I look at it like I said, I'm in the curriculum director at Riverfront, but I've been there for 13 years and I've worked in early childhood for 30.
yeah,
So I've seen how it's changed. And I know what I'm sending you next year.
yeah.
I apologize now. But we don't have, from my point of view, don't have the
Hey,
resources
thank
to help
you.
these children.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're doing it with people, it sounds awful, don't take this the wrong way. It's refreshing to hear that